Our problems aren't police. Black males not being socialized the correct way, and they grow up to commit crime, assault, murder, rape. Yet black men in America commit those crimes at higher rates than other demographics. And it's because of that we have so many lives lost and taken in our communities. And so that is the actual problem. The Derek Chauvin trial is officially over. He has been found guilty on 3 counts, convicted of 2nd-degree unintentional murder, 3rd-degree murder, and 2nd-degree manslaughter. All right. It took the jurors around 2 days to get to their verdict, and Derek Chauvin is headed to jail now. People are out there celebrating in the streets. They're dancing, they're crying, and they're giving each other high fives. And I wanted to come here today and really, speak to the people, my people, black people, African Americans, about our reaction to this trial and how I think we look like a bunch of clowns right now. A bunch of clowns. I'm seeing clips of people crying in the street about the verdict of Derek Chauvin. I'm seeing people high-fiving. I'm seeing, people act. You would think we won some type of award or something based off of our reaction to this trial. And I don't understand how we can continuously be so short-sighted about what we need to do in order to actually progress the livelihoods of African Americans in this country. Police ain't it. It's not. But we have hitched ourselves to the police brutality train and convinced ourselves that if we can somehow, decrease the number of black men that are killed by police from, some years it's like 20 unarmed down to 10, then, oh yes, that's progress for black people. It's not progress for us. The police brutality issue is not an issue for African Americans in 2021. Most of you watching this video, or for those of you listening to the podcast, you aren't going to be killed by a police officer. You are overwhelmingly more likely to be killed by somebody who looks like me. Matter of fact, I keep trying to tell you guys, African Americans between the ages of, I think it's 18 to 35, are the only demographic in this country where our leading cause of death is homicide. And not homicide at the hands of police officers. No, homicides at the hands of other African Americans who live in our communities. That's the truth of the matter. There's no skating past this issue. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, why have we attached ourselves to the police brutality fight, even though we know deep down that this is not a real problem, right? Like, if you grew up in a black neighborhood, low income, lower middle class black neighborhood, unfortunately, I think I can guess that you grew up in an area where there was a lot of crime in your community, right? I remember going to visit my grandmothers who lived in the projects, and when they would tell me to get home safe, they weren't telling me to get home safe because they were afraid I was going to get shot by police officers. They were telling me to get home safe because of the young men in the community that were out there causing all of this crime. That is what our focus needs to be, tackling that issue. If we can get our communities to a place where they are safe for us to build businesses in and people feel comfortable, where black women can kind of walk to and from work without, feeling that they'll be harassed or assaulted. If we can actually get to that point, that is actual black progress. This police brutality shit is just a smokescreen. At best, it's a smokescreen. And so I don't understand how deep down we all know this, yet we still allow ourselves to become attached to this police brutality issue. But then it got me thinking, the reason why we're so attached to this is because, unfortunately, a lot of our black leaders, quote unquote, have deemed the police brutality issue to be a black issue, even though they know deep down that it's not. And who I'm talking about? I'm talking about Al Sharpton, of course, enemy number 1 for me. I'm talking about Benjamin Crump, enemy number 2 for me. I'm talking about Black Lives Matter, the entire organization, all right, from the leadership on down, right? I'm talking about the Democratic politicians who know that this is not an issue for African Americans. They ain't stupid. They know. But the Congressional Black Caucus, Barack Obama's releasing statements about, America is a racist society, and even though this is a guilty verdict, it doesn't mean anything. Kamala Harris, who released her statement yesterday as well. These people know this is not a real issue for us, but they continue to kind of egg it on because it is good for them personally. It is good for them politically, and it is good for them financially. Nothing I'm saying in today's podcast or video, if you're watching on YouTube, nothing I'm saying here is actually new. I've said on numerous occasions that what we're dealing with here is a black leadership structure, the black elite, who sell out the black population in America to line their own pockets because these issues are extremely lucrative for people. Democratic politicians use police brutality to run candidates, right? You hear all the time, the black woman is the backbone of the Democratic Party, right? And, black men, we're so dumb and have no backbone of our own. We just follow behind whatever our women think, politically, without even questioning certain things, So, the Democrats know, okay, well, if we can get black women, the black men with no backbone and no balls, they're going to follow them right behind them. And so they make this issue a quote unquote black issue to kind of rein in black women. And then they get the black men to come along, right? They run candidates. Then they use police brutality as an issue to raise finances for said candidates. It's a game. Al Sharpton, who's kind of a representation of the black church that has swallowed this issue whole. It is also in their financial interest to make this an issue. If there was no racism left, think about this very carefully. What would Al Sharpton do with his life? I mean, he has a show on MSNBC. He also has a show on Sirius XM. He has these shows not because he's like a great speaker or he would be a great person to speak about the news. He's terrible when he talks. No one watches Al Sharpton's shows because they find him to be a compelling speaker or he offers some phenomenal insight. No. Racism is the foundational block in which he has built his financial empire. And so he needs for the community to buy into this issue in order for him to remain relevant so that he can continue to have financial power and also political power. And so we're getting played and pimped out by various members of our community and no one's saying anything about it. Because this is not, once again, it is not a real black issue, right? Like if you're a surgeon and, somebody comes into the ER, right? And there are a bunch of things wrong with them. What you do is you find out, okay, what do we need to do to stabilize this person? And then we'll move on to the other things, right? So if somebody, they were shot, 2-3 times in the chest, okay? And they were stabbed, or sliced on their leg. Stabilizing the bleeding from the gunshot wounds is significantly more important than worrying about the slice on their leg, as long as there wasn't like an artery or a vein cut, right? Because, okay, we're going to deal with that later. The chest bleeding, we have to solve that right now. Dealing with black crime is the chest issue. Black people, we have been shot a couple of times in the chest, and we need to deal with that. And we do need to deal with that. We do. That is what we really need to tackle. And I know people are going to be pushing back what I'm saying. Some of you are going to call me a coon. You're going to call me a sellout. And look, I get that stuff. I am none of those things. I'm actually someone who has grown to want to do things for black people, for the black community. And part of that is being honest with you about what our problems are. Our problems aren't police. Black males not being socialized the correct way, and they grow up to commit crime, violent crime. Because I'm Mr. Legalize all drugs, politically speaking. But as far as assault, murder, rape, yeah, black men in America commit those crimes at higher rates than other demographics, and it's because of that we have so many lives lost and taken in our communities. And so that is the actual problem. That is the real problem that needs to be solved. You can't have economics and business in black communities unless you deal with the crime. Who wants to open their business in a neighborhood where their stores are constantly being robbed or looted or burned down whenever somebody gets shot in the street? No one. So until we solve the black male behavioral problem, we can't solve anything else. That's the real issue here. So that's kind of what I wanted to say today. You guys know I like to keep my episodes really brief. We'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. If you're on YouTube, please comment down below. If you're listening, please, you can hit me up on comment on YouTube or hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, @CrewPhilosopher. My information's in the show notes. Or send me an email. Send an email to crewphilosopher@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay. because we have to start having honest conversations if we want to heal anything. And I do want us to heal, but we have to have these conversations first. Okay, so those are my thoughts, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Deuces.